This is propaganda live.
I only suggest how to think and how to vote.
Extraordinary cultural moment, already iconic. We love you, you're welcome here.
I almost sound like a conspiracy theorist, but it's a bit late now.
They don't want to have a conversation and debate because they're lying. And this is a matter now of fact and record.
Trump is like Hitler. Let me count the ways. I'm a Nazi, actually. And I've kept it down till now, but this is my chance.
God, it's propaganda. Did you guess it? I feel that Christ may have had a better vision.
Bastards, aren't they? I mean, you can't watch too much of this without realising they're absolute bastards. Let's go full screen on Russell.
This is On Brand, a podcast where we discuss the ideas and antics of one Russell Brand. I'm Al Worth, and each week I go through an episode of Stay Free with Russell Brand in order to dissect and debunk it. Today we'll be covering some general bigotries, a good chunk of misogyny, and Russell full-throatedly attacking the legacy media. But before we get into that, allow me to thank a new Awakening Wonder here. So, Glass and the Machines of God, you are now an Awakening Wonder.
You are indeed an awakening wonder.
Thank you very much, Glass and the Machines of God. And Elliot, a much more understated name. I'm grateful nonetheless. You are now an Awakening Wonder.
You are indeed an awakening wonder.
Thank you very much, Elliot. And if anyone wants to support the show financially by becoming an Awakening Wonder, joining the Invisible Hand, or donating on an elevated tier, head to patreon.com/onbrand and sign up. And you will have my eternal gratitude, and you'll be able to access additional content as well as a completely ad-free version of the show. Oh, also, I should mention, there are now annual memberships on Patreon available at a discount of 10%, which a few people have been taking up already. People like Taru Tikkanen, Lee, and Larry Ames. Hey, your proper shout-out is coming up soon, buddy, actually. But seriously, I appreciate you all buckling in for the full year. That does mean a lot, so thank you. That said, if you don't go that road, that's okay. I am grateful for all Awakening Wonders and members of the Invisible Hand, etc. Now then, let's leap into this week's show, which actually takes place the day before last week's show, if you can stretch your mind to such things, because, well, Russell is taking a break from his show until June 9th, presumably after a stint in the UK and whatever else. In fact, we're being promised a revamped, brand new show, which... I mean, how can we not all be extremely excited for what's to come? So what we'll be looking at today is Monday last week's show, which it turns out was Memorial Day in the US, and Russell celebrates that fact by dressing himself in a sort of military shirt, seemingly unintentionally belittling the achievements of veterans in their service, and claiming that he doesn't have medals because, well, his are all on the inside. Alrighty.
Happy Memorial Day, as awakening wonders, ye! Hear ye, hear ye! A lot of people not doing a show on Memorial Day. Me, put on the fatigues, get out there and commemorate those veterans and current people in service in the United States for their brave, bold sacrifices. They're willing to give their lives for what they believe in. Let me just tell you about a few military personnel that I know well. Why, there's beloved Amos, that great, big, handsome, lovable former Marine whose brother died in combat. He was injured in combat. His father ended his own life after he lost his son. And yet Amos continues to be a radiant light. What about Daniel? A fantastic, I'm not sure what unit you're in, Daniel, and you're probably not watching this, are you? You're probably out enjoying Memorial Day. You're out, you're on the beach, you're at a crawfish broil, you're barbecuing, you're being an American, you're living the American life. You were certainly living the American life when you're in service because you were participating in a war that was based on a lie to benefit elites that cost ordinary people their lives, and there's nothing more American than that. I'm talking about the old neocon style of Americans under George W. Bush. Now it's the liberals that crave endless war, but we honor and revere and love the troops and those that serve Why can't we acknowledge the damage caused by the military? Well, I think we did, didn't we? Like the colonialism, Vietnam War, terrible. What about Britain's conduct around the world using the military and patriotism in most disingenuous ways? I'm just realising there's Velcro in this. I could be sticking something on that. That would be so cool, couldn't it? I could have something. I'm not a fan of war anymore. No, you're right, Second Chance. War is not good. All of you that are joining us, we're not going to get no raids from the Mug Club. We're not going to get no raids from Timcast. They're having Memorial Day off, are they, as Americans? Yeah, they're not going to be working. Right, it's just us. And Bongino, Bongino will be toiling away at the FBI. Tell her, give us the Epstein files, Dan. Dan, give us a... Blink twice, Dan. If you're under pressure, how come Russell has no medals? My medals are worn on the inside, baby. My medals are like scars. My medals adorn me. My medals are worn for the one that made the ultimate sacrifice. For we fight not for victory, but from victory. Victory has already been achieved by the warrior priest king that died, that we may live.
I think this is the first time I've heard Jesus described as though he's a playable tabletop RPG character. Like, yeah, my class is Warrior Priest King, with an extra high charisma stat, by the way, and my character is called Jesus. Good lord. Listen, I'm not American, so I haven't had the same sort of like jingoistic support the troops narrative drilled into me the same way as you guys have. And I suspect that's part of the issue that Russell's having here, because a lot of that felt pretty disrespectful to the troops when compared to like the usual sort of solemnness that surrounds Memorial Day. You know, he mentioned Dan Bongino. I don't think this is the way Dan Bongino would have handled it. I think it'd be, or even Steven Crowder. I think even Steven Crowder would be like, yeah, support the troops. God, it's grave sacrifice, all of that shit, right? So Russell, on the other hand, is wearing a military-style shirt, basically said, hey, I've never served, but I do know some former military, like relaying a pretty brutal story about one of them, and then said, like, hey, you participated in a war based on a lie to benefit elites that cost ordinary people their lives. There's nothing more American than that. And then said he doesn't have medals, but his medals are worn on the inside, like scars worn for Jesus, which, I mean, scars are normally on the... yeah, it just feels like a whole, like, pseudo-stolen valor kind of thing, I swear. Like, it's like a white guy trying to tell all his friends it's fine for him to say the N-word because he knows some black people, you know? That's how I'm feeling about all of it, but, again... I might be out of touch with the pulse of Americana, so Americans, feel free to weigh in on if any of that felt right to you, because it all felt wrong to me, the entire thing from top to bottom. Oh, and let's not forget the landmark bold statement that he's not a fan of war anymore, and that war is bad. Thanks for that one, John Lennon. As for Dan Bongino, well... he showed up on Fox News lately complaining about how hard his new job as deputy director of the FBI is, and yeah, Dan, it probably is quite a lot harder than sitting in front of a microphone for 3 hours a day spreading conspiracy theories that other people have made up. I am, however, pleased to say that patrons next week will be looking at Dan Bongino's final episode on Rumble, and the guy who's replacing him, Vince, who doesn't seem to be doing well so far. Dear oh dear. Russell's disrespect aside, happy Memorial Day to American troops. You know. Sorry you have to deal with pieces of shit like this. You know. Military reverence is a complicated thing, you know, because in my opinion, I'm like, well, there are assholes in every institution. That's just a universal truth. But I do respect the dedication and service and all that stuff. Seems like a tough gig. Also, like, the military is the biggest employer in the US. You know, there are a lot of you out there. All right, let's move on here. And as mentioned, this is the day before last week's show. So I showed Rob last week that clip of Brigitte Macron being violent towards Emmanuel Macron, and Russell's transphobic commentary around it, but that does quite pale in comparison to when Russell very first saw the clip the day before, which we get here.
All right, I'm going to get into today's content. This is something that you're probably going to enjoy. Macron, one of those kind of WF, WHO, globalist type leaders, he's in charge, excuse me, I don't know why it's like that syllable. He's in charge of a country known as France. His wife, Brigitte, give him some beatdowns. Now, a lot of people are saying that Bridget packs quite a punch, that she packs a wallop, that when Bridget lays 5 knuckles on you, you know all about it. That with Bridget, there's some surprises waiting downstairs. With Bridget, you could pull up the apron and find the last turkey in the shop staring back at you. With Bridget, there might be more to it than meet the eye. Bridget, je t'aime, je t'aime. Bridget! What the hell's that, Bridget? Bridget!
Again, terrific levels of bigotry, a form of transphobia and misogyny here, and also, like, why should anyone enjoy that clip? He just said his audience would enjoy that clip, you know, and I don't hate Russell, but obviously not his biggest fan. But if a clip surfaced of his wife Laura hitting him in the face, I still wouldn't be okay with that. Like, I thought we as a society had evolved past finding domestic violence funny. Like, sometime during the 60s or 70s, you know, it used to be a sitcom bit, you know, power right in the kisser, that whole thing. Maybe I'm wrong on the timeline as to when it moved into being bad taste, but like, certainly by this year of 2025, I'd like to think we've evolved past that. Then again, I once thought we'd evolved past Nazis having political power, so I guess anything's up for grabs these days, and there's nothing harrowing about that at all. In any case, to reiterate, Brigitte Macron is not trans, she's just a standard cis woman, who also happens to be a bit of a predator and groomer and seemingly a domestic abuser. There are so many legitimate issues to take here, and yet Russell, in his infamous show where he speaks truth to power, is making jokes about this woman having a penis. It is the kind of thing that makes me wonder what the fuck I'm doing here. I'm looking at this and I'm like, what am I spending my time watching? Like, I have enough existential crises on a weekly basis, Russell. I don't need you adding to them. Thank you. Ugh. So, we go from one piece of misogyny to another, because now Russell has some thoughts about Nancy Pelosi.
We're going to get into it.
That went from housewife to House Speaker, or from the kitchen to the Congress for the children, because 1 in 5 children in America.
Can you imagine Nancy Pelosi emerging from a gingerbread house like, children, children? Can you imagine her? A la the Wicked Witch of the West or East. I'm not sure. I don't know all the different ones out of Wiccan stuff. I've got daughters, but, you know, sometimes I tune out, although I do know quite a lot of those songs now, I realise. Defying gravity, just Paul Pelosi defying hedge fund trends, Nancy Pelosi defying decency, and you won't bring me down. It's all about the children, did you know? We gotta help the children, me and Paul. What about that robbery when Paul Pelosi got hammered in the face? Was he seeing that guy under some extra circumstances? You and I define the stock market, just you and me, refusing to pass a bill that stops Congress people investing in stocks and shares that they regulate, or allowing a dependent child to invest in stocks and shares. I call it Hunter Biden syndrome, defying gravity, and you won't bring us down. Let me know what you think in the comments and the chat.
I think the lyrics to that song are best left to Stephen Schwartz, and the singing best left to Idina Menzel. I haven't actually seen the new movie, so I can't comment on Cynthia Erivo's performance, though I've heard it's great. And I swear I didn't plan this in advance, but obviously it is very topical that Russell is breaking out a show tune when I've just put up Musicals is Nice for patrons, which is me going through some musicals and whatnot, and talking about the songs, particularly as I recently have been to see Dear Evan Hansen and Book of Mormon, which was phenomenal. And I can promise you, all of those things in Musicals is Nice are much, much better than what Russell just did. He does seem to know the melody, like, pretty well. I've got to say, his kids are clearly into it. Anyway, Nancy Pelosi is a witch, apparently, which is some archaic level misogyny. I mean, that's vintage, that's classic. And also, Russell is repeating the provably false conspiracy theory that the guy who broke into the Pelosi's house and attacked Paul Pelosi with a hammer was actually his gay lover, and the whole thing was a lover's spat. This was repeated by, Alex Jones, Elon Musk, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Donald Trump himself. So it's not surprising that Russell is still jumping on board with this nonsense. As for the whole trading stocks and shares thing, Yeah, on that point, we're agreed. Like, there need to be way tighter regulations restricting lawmakers and their close family members from buying stocks and shares when they're the ones in charge of what's happening in the country. I do agree with that. But the problem is that the people Russell supports are uniformly benefiting from making money while being in office. Chief among them being Donald fucking Trump. Another one being RFK Jr. Look, a bit of consistency is all I ask for, if that's the perspective you're going to advance. Supposedly, Josh Hawley, of all people, has reintroduced the Preventing Elected Leaders from Owning Securities and Investments, or Pelosi Act, as a bill for consideration, and it actually looks like an okay piece of legislation on first glance. I've read it, it looks alright. Which is not to say there might not be problems to people who know more than me. That is perfectly possible. But either way, my guess is that bill is going to get exactly nowhere the same way it did last time. We shall see. I'm going to play one more clip here of Nancy Pelosi to illustrate the point that she's trying to make in that interview about the GOP spending bill. That's what she's there talking about, and starving kids. And how then Russell just completely ignores it.
Won't somebody please think of the children?
1 in 5 children in America was living in poverty and going to sleep hungry at night. Now this bill comes along and makes matters worse.
All right, I thought you said John Voight. You're fucking out of control, you are. John Voight, at a time like this, we can't talk about John Voight. All right, okay, Jen Psaki. Jen Psaki on presidents taking holidays.
Okay, so we're just going to call her a witch, and then bring up John Voight, and then move on to a different woman that Russell wants to make commentary on. This is either decent instinct on Russell's part, or more likely just how easily distracted he is once he feels like he's landed a sufficient attack on someone. But what Nancy Pelosi was actually talking about in that interview is no joke. So the massive spending bill from Donald Trump that's already passed the House is called, and I shit you not, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. We are living in a satire, everybody. Predictably, within that bill is a shitload of spending, as well as tax cuts that will ultimately increase the US deficit by nearly $4 trillion in the next decade, which, look, I know at a certain point global finance is just fucking numbers in the ether, like, what does that even mean? But from a standpoint of running a country, things moving in that direction that rapidly is not great. But the thing that Nancy Pelosi was talking about was how, in order to help pay for the tax cuts for the wealthy, Donald Trump wants to cut Medicaid and SNAP by roughly $1 trillion. So that's healthcare and food for the working class that will be absolutely devastated. According to Accountable.us, a nonpartisan watchdog group, as a result of the changes in the bill, which include stricter work requirements to qualify for the programs, 14 million individuals may lose health coverage, while 3 million households may go without food assistance. But let's not address that. Let's bring up John Voight for some reason and then move on to talk about Jen Psaki. From Russell's perspective, as someone who sucks up to Trump and has received the Global Defender of Freedom Award from him, moving on was probably a wise decision, because there is no way to defend Trump's spending bill if you have anything close to resembling a conscience. So far, Brigitte Macron is supposed to have a penis, and Nancy Pelosi is a witch. So where does Russell land on Jen Psaki? Let's find out. And after he's given his assessment of Jen Psaki, Russell has some comments for the people who cover what it is he does and has done, which I imagine probably includes me.
Jen Psaki, come on, let's be honest, she's extremely attractive.
Oh.
But the president said today that he was sent here to look out for these working and middle-class families who are strained right now. So what should they read into him leaving?
See them people in masks. I'll tell you what, I lose a lot of sympathy for them. I gotta tell you, this ain't hindsight. It's
2021.
You can go back and look at me. There was one time I was in a supermarket and I just stuck a bit of paper to my face with like a Band-Aid. Like I was in a supermarket and I didn't have a mask because I thought this is like something in me. I think what it was the past told me that whole thing was bollocks right near the beginning. So I refused to get any of the vaccines. I refused to cooperate. Anyway,
oppositional defiance is what that's called.
Like that,
You
with a Band-Aid. And I posted I posted a picture of it, so that'll be online somewhere. If you're one of the people making numerous documentaries about me in which you think you're doing good, but actually you are assisting the darkest forces imaginable. What do you mean darkest forces imaginable? Well, for example, if 500,000 children in America are really going missing, if there are powerful people involved in that, and you are one way or another facilitating or participating in that darkness, you are part of the problem. Ignorance is no defense. Ignorance is no defense. Let's do it. Russell, what made you become conservative? I'm not conservative. I'm a Christian. You had the opportunity to be rich and famous. I was rich and famous. But you chose a completely different path where you're attacked by BS accusations. Jake, you got to do it, man. That's what we have to do. We have to follow the Lord.
Yep, that's what he's doing. He's following the Lord. That's what's happening. And supposedly what I'm doing is assisting the darkest forces imaginable by covering Russell's bullshit. And the link he makes there is that supposedly by covering Russell's bullshit, I'm also participating in and facilitating the disappearance and trafficking of 500,000 children by powerful people. Which is funny, because I'm just sat here with my podcast doing my thing, and apparently I'm facilitating child trafficking in doing so. Who knew? Attacking Russell means supporting child trafficking. Also, again, those 500,000 children aren't actually missing or being trafficked. So far as, well, there isn't any evidence of that anyway. It's a big administrative thing where ICE seemingly fucked up and a bunch of kids haven't shown up for their asylum court dates because no one was passing on their data once they actually came into the country. Cue all of the Sound of Freedom idiots and people like Tony Robbins waltzing in to try and save the day when actually it's standard administrative incompetence, which is truly shocking in the US, I know. So anyway, where we landed on Jen Psaki is that Russell wants to fuck her, so despite her literally working for the Biden administration, she gets a pass and doesn't get called a witch or accused of having a penis. It's funny how that works. And let's not forget what a great line, "I'm not a conservative, I'm a Christian," is 10 out of 10, A+ dodge there. Despite Russell regularly self-describing as being part of the alt-right media sphere and literally all of his contemporaries being alt-right shitheads, as well as spouting the same alt-right nonsense that they all do, no, he's not a conservative, he's a Christian who just happens to support all of the things that the conservatives are doing. Cool. Now we have another Jen Psaki clip here, and the chat weighs in as well, the Rumble chat, and things get real ugly real quick. By the way, it's very common among incel culture and in the manosphere to assign a number rating to women's looks. So like a number out of 10, right? With 10 being the top and 1 being the bottom. And we're about to get a bit of that gross perspective right here. And I'm not saying that there's causation, but there is definitely correlation here.
Russell, you got a thing for gingers. Psaki is a 6'7" max. No, is it that? Hold on. Look, I don't objectify people. It's wrong to objectify.
Oh.
But I think what it is, I don't know. Let me just watch again.
Leaving now at this time of...
No, she's not even in this.
Leaving now
I don't
at
want
this
to
time
objectify
of,
people, so let me play the clip again so I can
personal
objectify her
financial
properly.
Anyway,
Thank
I'm
you.
married and I've not got a thing for anyone. You know.
Financial hardship for so many to go to Nantucket for the week.
Well, first I would say, Peter, that I hope you're spending time with your family. I'm spending time with my family, and I hope everybody in here is spending time with their families. This is a time to put politics aside.
Politics aside, just spend time with your family.
Politics aside,
Thanksgiving.
spend time with your loved ones and talk about what you're grateful for. I will also tell you from spending some time working for this president and a past president that you are president no matter where you are. He will conduct his work from wherever he is, on any vacation, on any time he is in Delaware, at Camp David, or wherever he may be spending time with his loved ones. He has secure phone.
He won't know where he is. Why should you?
He has secure phone capabilities. He has staff traveling with him. And I think the American people can be assured that he will continue to press to lower.
Some of you think she's a ghoul and demonic. All right.
To press to lower their costs and ensure they have more breathing room. First, I want to take a moment, though, to talk about a bit about something.
Maybe it's the voice or something. Maybe I just, I don't know. She's a snake. I despise her. Not even a 2. She's a sycophant and a sociopath. All right. Who do you like?
Not women would be my guess. Shockingly, the Rumble chat not overly fond of women. Supposedly Jen Psaki is a ghoul, is demonic, she's a sycophant and a sociopath, apparently, which I just love Trump supporters calling other people sycophants and sociopaths. Like, all right, at this point, you're just telling on yourselves, guys. Come on. Look around you. Look around at your Trump merchandise, your Trump Bible, and your Trump sneakers, and whatever the fuck else, and all of the people just fawning over the man himself, and tell me who is a sycophant, and look at the man himself and tell me who is a sociopath. Jesus. Note that once again in objectifying Jen Psaki and then swiftly moving on, because Russell doesn't play any more of the actual clip, he avoids the point that she's making in the second portion of the clip about, or was going on to make, about Donald Trump spending more time golfing than presidenting. The first clip was from the Biden presidency, about him spending Thanksgiving with his family, and there was supposed to be like a second clip there being like, hey, this Donald Trump guy continues to not do much work, just like the first time he was president. But again, why bother with that when we have some women to denigrate and dehumanize? Fantastic stuff. So from here, Russell gets a little bit lost in how the media provide the framework for all of us, and then he starts engaging more with the Rumble chat, and we go down a pretty rough road.
Like, the media provides the frame. You cannot, it's incredible, really. Throughout the pandemic, the media provided a frame. In all stories, the media provide a frame. Look at this person in the chat, Laura Marikai. They're all liars. They've all committed treason and helped commit murder with the vaccines. I like the American consequence penalty for this. It's called the death penalty. Then there's a thumbs up, a fire, the scales of justice, a bell, and the American flag. Well, mate, that's quite heavy, though, what you're saying there. Let me just go through it again. They're all liars. I agree with that. Yeah. They've all committed treason and helped commit murders with the vaccines. There is some treason there. And I don't
is there?
Are we going to call them murders? I would say sort of maybe manslaughter. I like it, and unless it is all a massive population control thing. Let me know in the comments and chat if you think there's this population control thing going on to help advance the AI agenda. What helps? What would be the advantage of it? Help me understand the advantage. I like the American consequence stroke penalty for this. It's called the death penalty, exclamation mark, thumbs up, fire, scales of justice, bell, flag. What's the fire? Thumbs up, death penalty. I'm against the death penalty, I think.
Oh.
I'm against it. I think it's wrong. I don't think our Lord would be down with it. Jake?
That's a tough one. Join us on Premium to find the
It's a tough one. Join us on Premium.
I'm against it. I'm not saying, well, I know what you've been saying now. I bet someone's typing, what if someone murdered your kids? I go, fucking I'll tear them open and eat their bodies. They're live in real time. But that's not the right thing to do. It's not the right thing to do, is it?
Oh.
Like, of course you want to do that, but aren't we communally committed to elevating the collective to the highest state that the kingdom of the Lord may come again? Innit? Is that what we're trying to do? And I know that it's coming again anyway. I know we don't have to do anything.
Oh. Surely that negates everything you've just said if he's coming anyway. Also, like, I don't know, having read the Bible, my perspective is that God was always pretty chill about the death penalty. Like, a lot of people die in that book. It gets pretty bloodthirsty in several moments, right? It's Jesus that was a bit more against the whole killing stuff. Then again, he probably knew he was going to be crucified, so maybe you would have, like, an anti-death penalty stance if you knew it was coming your way, you know? But then again, he was back again a few days later, so who knows? Who knows? I'm no biblical scholar, that's for sure. Anyway, Russell needs to learn that this is why we don't engage with the Rumble chat, because it leads to moral questions over whether tearing people open and eating their bodies live in real time is in fact the right thing to do. And because of the theme of this week, I've now got Sweeney Todd going in my head, putting people in pies and such. But otherwise, Russell does seem open to the idea that COVID vaccines are all about population control and part of, the Great Reset. And he's definitely on board with the way governments handled the pandemic as being treasonous, presumably excluding Donald Trump from that, though, because he's always the useful idiot who didn't know any better when it comes to the vaccines and Operation Warp Speed. And then the rest of the time, he's a genius playing 5D chess that the rest of us couldn't possibly comprehend. Here's hoping that Russell commits to the idea of trying to elevate the community as much as possible rather than going the nihilistic route of, well, fuck it, Jesus is coming back anyway. Though, thinking about it, I am genuinely not sure which option is least harmful in terms of Russell's future actions and impact. Like, I can't tell which is gonna be worse. There's something to think about. In other religious news, Russell engaged in some mass baptisms the other week in Florida, which I'm pretty sure he's not supposed... Like, I'm pretty sure it's not okay, but him and his buddy Sean Foyt, which is spelled F-E-U-C-H-T, so fucked, but pronounced Foyt, apparently. Well, they did some baptizing at the beach with some songs, and we get a little promo clip here, including Russell's incoherent speech, some of it, before some truly troubling perspectives from Sean Foyt.
I don't know if you know this, but out the weekend with my friend Sean Foyt, I was baptising people. I was baptising them to within an inch of their lives. I was giving them such a baptising. They was being baptised like they never been baptised before. I hope that this is a glorious occasion, because from the moment of my baptism, things change. For it's a war that we're in, and it's no longer a defensive one, but an aggressive one. We are in the armory of the Lord. I tried every single thing. I've looked for it everywhere, and I've only found it in Him. And I'm happy to be on my knees beside you, shoulder to shoulder with you. His signature is upon our heart, hallmarked by our DNA. Individual, molecular, perfect as you are, knitted together in the womb of your mother. God bless you all. God bless America.
I'm telling you, tonight is the night where the approval of the Father is going to come on your life, and it's going to break off all of the striving, all of the addictions, all of the performance, all of the stuff that you've had way down. And I understand therapy's good and all that kind of stuff, and books are good, and we got more podcasts and we know what to do with. But there's nothing like the voice of the Father speaking over His son and His daughter, saying, "This is my son, this is my daughter." I'm telling you, it can undo years of trauma, years of damage in a moment. The voice of the Father over your life can set you free forever.
Bold claims. So hey, therapy is great, everyone, but have you tried reading just one book and then getting dunked in water? And hey, look, listen, I know what we just saw is not the perspective of every Christian out there. I know that for sure. It's a wide tapestry. It's just these dudes are particularly fucking unhinged. And ironically, it's always the ones saying, like, God is better than therapy who really need to go to therapy. Russell has seemingly changed his entire life to avoid going to therapy. Oh, and books. I know therapy is good, and I know books are good. We've got more podcasts than we know what to do with, but there's nothing like the voice of the Father. Listen, I don't know what voice you're hearing, but in terms of reading material, the Bible is really not a winner. You can't tell me that the Bible is better than Lord of the Rings, because it just isn't. Or some of my other favorites, right? Catch-22, Maltese Falcon, A Confederacy of Dunces, the entirety of Terry Pratchett. Are you trying to tell me that the Bible is better than the entire of the Discworld? Because fuck off, no it isn't, I've read them both. No. Maybe I haven't heard the voice of the Father enough to get it. I'm sure if I ask them, there's something I'm doing wrong in my approach, despite having been baptized into the Anglican Church when I was 17. It was so I could officially be godparent to my niece, but still. Everybody, read books and go to therapy, please. If there's one takeaway from this show ever, make it that one. Read books, read more books, attend more therapy. Especially if you think you don't need to. Do those things, please. So, next Russell plays a clip where he doesn't know what's coming, and he sort of misses the point. It's going to be a bunch of media outlets saying basically the same thing about Donald Trump's meeting with the president of South Africa.
What's this? Media conspiracy? What media conspiracy? Let me just try this.
The dramatic scene in the Oval Office today, the tense confrontation, President Trump ambushing the president of South Africa.
Up next, another Oval Office meltdown, President Trump ambushing the president of South Africa.
President Trump is being accused of conducting something of a diplomatic ambush of South Africa's president in the Oval Office.
To be with you, I'm Katie Tur. President Trump orchestrated another Oval Office ambush today.
Today, Donald Trump meeting with the president of South Africa.
and attempting to ambush and humiliate that leader.
Zelensky territory, where essentially he was a bit ambushed inside the Oval Office.
Felt like an ambush in there, kind of like the President Zelensky meeting in the Oval Office.
This was an ambush. It was orchestrated.
Cyril Ramaphosa brought his best diplomatic self to this meeting, but nothing could have prepared him for this multimedia ambush.
What started as, to some degree, an ambush.
Well, Katie, I mean, it was an ambush.
Ambush. Ambushed. Ambush.
An ambush.
Ambushing.
Ambushed inside the Oval Office.
They're great, aren't they? They're so bold. It's amazing. Yeah, I mean, what if we just said it was an ambush? Extraordinary. Extraordinary.
Just fucking whoosh, like right over his head. For the record, like at least a third of those were CNN and another third were MSNBC. So like it's the same fucking network. What do you expect? But like also the point should have been, and it's in the title that he read out, like, oh, these lefty media companies like CNN and MSNBC are all saying the same thing, therefore it's a media conspiracy against Donald Trump and they're all working together. Like, I shouldn't be having to punch up his material, but fuck me, that's an obvious one, right? And obviously, he never bothered to look into what the actual meeting with the president of South Africa was about, so he can't comment on that. So he's just got to say, wow, it's amazing, isn't it? It's amazing, and then move on. Not for nothing, but like, how many synonyms can you think of for the word ambush? Like surprise attack, trap. One I found through Google that doesn't get enough use these days is ambuscade. I like that one. Got caught in an ambuscade. But otherwise, it's not a wonder they're all calling it the same thing. It's because we pretty much only use the one word for that thing. Ambush. So even if Russell was savvy enough to understand the argument he should be making, it's still a bad argument. Yeesh. But not all is lost, because Russell then uses that clip as a launching pad to attack the legacy media, and he does so with a directness that I've not seen from him before.
I think that in countries like the UK and the US, there should be aggressive measures undertaken to dismantle the legacy media, aggressively attack their funding models, whether that's through taxation, in the case of my country, the BBC, tacit taxation in the form of the license, or in countries where the media is funded commercially, punitive measures must be instantly undertaken to disable and dismantle the legacy media. That's just what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments and the chat. We can't trust them. They're an enemy of the people. They're an enemy of the state. They should be brought down and destroyed. I don't think any measures that could be undertaken to ensure mass unemployment throughout their industry, the dismantling of their offices, their facilities, I think it should be undertaken at once. What do you reckon, guys? I would like to see that occur. Obviously, I've got skin in the game because I used to work there, and I feel like that they personally try to kind of destroy me. Well, actually, it'll all be handled by the Lord. It'll unfold. It's all good. It's all good. It's going exactly as it needs to.
Oh, okay then. So just ignore all the stuff you just said. Like it's all going exactly as it needs to. It'll all be handled by the Lord. But otherwise, we need to dismantle and destroy the entire field of journalism because they're enemies of the people and enemies of the state. Journalists are enemies of the state, apparently. This is some nakedly fascist shit right here. Like, I know that this is Russell lashing out because of his own hurt feelings. He just said as much, but I do think he's being honest with his perspective. And the worrying thing is that I suspect that perspective is shared among many of his peers. I am quite sure if you ask the likes of Tucker Carlson or Alex Jones whether they think the legacy media should be dismantled and that entire sector destroyed and left unemployed, they would say yes. Like, I've got to say, I do have like a deep respect for journalists who, actually do the job of journalism these days. It seems like a rough fucking gig without having to worry about shitheads like Russell trying to actively get their industry destroyed. Because, like, Trump will listen to people like Russell and Tucker Carlson and Alex Jones. That's been made clear. Like, there are legitimate concerns when he says things as brazen as, yes, we should destroy the entire of legacy media. They are enemies of the people and enemies of the state. Jesus Christ. Whew. So, next up, Lucy Connolly, that lady who was calling for mass deportation in the UK and said to set fire to all the hotels housing refugees, you know, the lady who's now in prison for saying all of that, well, she lost a court appeal, apparently, and so that means, well, we need to talk about it some more.
Let's start with the Lucy Connolly story, which has been brought up in the White House, apparently. Who, in what context? Free speech martyr loses appeal to be freed from jail for inciting racial hatred. Let's see what Keir Starmer said about Lucy Connolly.
Mr. Starmer was quizzed, was asked about Lucy Connolly. Watch this.
So cut the front off that in post.
I'm not across the details of the particular case, but let me give you the principles that I would apply. Firstly, I'm strongly in favour of free speech. We've had free speech in this country for a very, very long time, and we protect it fiercely. I'm equally, though, against incitement to violence against other people. That has long been an offence in our country, and rightly so. And so I say, don't know the details of this case, but free speech, yes. Incitement to violence, no.
Okay. Does that sound rehearsed to you? Free speech, yes. Incitement to violence.
Does that matter?
No. Who decides where that line is? Here's
Judges.
the answer. People in authority decide where the line is. And what
Judges.
they want are laws that can be deployed against the people they choose to persecute and prosecute. That's what they want, a kind of vagueness and an opportunity to criminalize whoever it's convenient to criminalize. In this case, let's be compassionate. In this case, let's persecute. Look at who's getting jailed and it will tell you how they plan to govern.
Yeah, it's judges who decide where the line is between free speech and incitement to violence. It's literally their job. It's in their job title. They judge where that line is, among other things, but that's one of the things they judge. But beyond that, Lucy Connolly herself pled guilty to the offense of distributing material with the intention of stirring up racial hatred. Both the prosecution and her own barrister agreed that she intended to incite serious violence. Supposedly, at her appeal, Lucy Connolly claimed that while she accepted she intended to stir up racial hatred, which is a crime, she always denied trying to incite violence. And they're both against the law, you dick. No wonder your appeal has been denied. It's very obvious just on its face. It is amazing to me how Russell is defending someone who openly accepts that, yes, she was trying to stir up racial hatred. It really does signal the perspective that he's coming from these days, which is supposedly one of free speech absolutism. That's kind of the direction he's pretending to come from. Because, weirdly, if you say anything nasty about him, well, that's supporting child trafficking, apparently. Interesting little double standard there. Nonetheless, this whole conversation from the American alt-right about how the UK doesn't have free speech has even made it as far as the Oval Office, as we see in this next clip here.
That's the Lucy Connolly side of this argument. Let's have a look at there's some interesting stuff going on because, for example, JD Vance, your vice president, has called out Starmer to his face over free speech. Let me see this. I'm not seeing this before.
I said what I said, which is that we do have, of course, a special relationship with our friends in the UK and also with some of our European allies. But we also know that there have been infringements on free speech that actually affect not just the British. Of course, what the British do in their own country is up to them, but also affect American technology companies and, by extension, American citizens. So that is something that we'll talk about today at lunch.
We've had free speech for a very, very long time in the United Kingdom, and it will last for a very, very long time. Well, no, I mean, certainly we wouldn't want to reach across US citizens, and we don't, and that's absolutely right. But in relation to free speech in the UK, I'm very proud of our history there.
We discussed all this.
Did you see the leg uncross and cross right there? Adam Carolla brilliantly said that you can tell who the neoliberal progressives are because they signal it to you with their leg crossing and with their colourful socks. Man, it cracked me up, that little bit of stand-up that he did about that. Well, actually, it wasn't stand-up. He was talking about it on his podcast.
Yep, you got him, Russell. Well done. Keir Starmer crossed and uncrossed his legs, meaning he's a neoliberal progressive, which, by the way, is something of an oxymoron if you know the meaning of those two words. But yeah, you got him. Good job. And of course, it was on Adam Carolla's podcast. Nobody's gonna pay to see that guy say things live, are they? Like, I don't think he does stand up these days, does he? Actually, no one tell me. I don't want to know. I don't need further confirmation of how much money these fucking hacks managed to make. Also, if we're talking about crossing legs, Jordan Peterson does that endlessly. He's always got his legs crossed in any conversation. Any conversation he's ever had with Russell, he's had his legs repeatedly crossed, like, just the entire time. So if that's supposed to be some kind of damning indication of people, then Jordy Peets is in trouble, I guess. Also, Keir Starmer's socks were black, for reference. And if anyone's wondering what tech companies J.D. Vance was on about, he means social media companies, because Lucy Connolly's racist bullshit was on X. Because of course it was. And shockingly, laws that apply in the UK, if that company wants to do shit in the UK, they have to abide by those laws. Like, that's just the way that is. These people just don't understand a fucking thing. Anyway, yeah, Russell really got Keir Starmer there about the leg crossing thing. Nailed him, totally. And later on, Russell feels bad, and has to say some nice things about Keir Starmer instead before launching yet another attack.
Now, like, what I'm saying about our man Keir Starmer there is, he's a child of God. He's a beautiful child of God. I pray for him. I pray for his family. I pray for peace. I pray for all of the people in positions of power. I pray for justice. I pray for openness and transparency. But in the UK right now, people are being jailed for issues that are definitely on the free speech side of that free speech incitement to violence line. If you believe in democracy, you don't walk back Brexit. If you believe in sovereignty, you do not give national power to the WHO. If you believe in free speech, you don't jail people for expressing their opinions in the middle of a very contentious time when people were fraught and broken by the murder of those 3 girls in Southport. It was not handled well by Keir Starmer, and it seems there might be more things to consider.
I mean, it's not like Keir Starmer personally jailed Lucy Connolly, nor would he be able to intervene in the justice system to prevent that from happening, and to do so would be a gross misuse of power. And the law that saw Lucy Connolly in prison was brought in under the Tories as well, just for the record. Also, Russell has clearly decided that it is in fact he who gets to judge where the line of free speech and incitement to violence is, because apparently telling thousands of people to burn hotels full of refugees to the ground now counts as free speech, according to him. Not crossing the line at all. Also, contentious times are exactly when people should be held accountable for their actions the most. Like, if you're just wandering about, like, lighting matches all day, maybe nobody gives a shit in the grand scheme of things, but if you happen to be stood next to a bunch of gunpowder kegs, maybe someone's gonna take issue with you lighting that match, and rightly fucking so. Just absurdist logic from Russell here. As for his Brexit comments, well, he expands on that here, so let's take a look.
Firstly, let's have a look at Keir Starmer's position on Brexit. Brexit was voted for by the people of the UK. They wanted to leave the European Union. They don't want to be part of an economic or trade partnership, and they want their national sovereignty in their country back. Now, whether you think that was an error or a mistake or whatever you think about it, of course, if you really have free speech, you can think we bloody well want. But the people of Britain voted to leave the EU. So what's going on with walking that shit right back? Giving Ursula von der Leyen, check out her relationship with Albert Bourla, by the way, do your own research. Keir Starmer is handing a European court the power to make the UK follow EU rules. A leaked text of Starmer's Brexit reset confirms 9 years after the UK voted to take back control, Labour is now given control of foreign judges. A leaked copy of the Brexit deal show. Let me know what you think about that in the comments and chat, particularly if you are a resident of the UK. Let me know what you think about how your country is being run when it comes to free speech, lack of inquiry into the rape gangs, and the potential misuse of law enforcement when it comes to the jailing of the likes of Lucy Connolly.
I mean, they're all kind of fine. Also, like it's definitely getting better in respect to relations with the EU. Like we were just talking about. Many other things are going completely down the shitter, and in many other ways, Keir Starmer can firmly go and fuck himself. But relations with the EU are much better, and are actually still respecting the outcome of the Brexit referendum, much as I wish they weren't. The idea that Keir Starmer is handing a European court the power to impose EU rules in the UK is a very shitty reading of what's actually happening, and I'm pretty sure that Russell brought up, I think it was the Daily Express version of events there, which, yeah, sometimes shitty journalism from them. I'm going to read from MSN about the specific point and the specific part of the new Brexit deal. Quote, "It includes measures making trade in animal and plant products between the EU and UK easier. A common sanitary and phytosanitary area, SPA, will allow most animals, animal products, plants and plant products to be transported between Great Britain and the European Union without much of the paperwork and checks currently required. But, the leaked agreement confirms, the SBS agreement should be subject to a dispute resolution mechanism with an independent arbitration panel that ensures the Court of Justice of the European Union is the ultimate authority for all questions of European Union law. It means the European Court of Justice, based in Luxembourg, will make rulings when there is uncertainty about the rules or a claim that the rules are being broken, which the UK will have to accept. And the agreement also makes it clear that the UK will have to accept rules made by the EU. It states that Britain will be consulted, but this means that the UK won't ultimately be making the decision. It states, to ensure that it can put forward its view, the United Kingdom should be involved at an early stage and contribute appropriately for a country that is not a member of the European Union to the decision-shaping process of the European Union legal acts in the fields covered by the obligation to dynamically align. The European Commission should consult the government of the United Kingdom at an early stage of policy making. These rights would not extend to participation in the work of the Council or its preparatory bodies." Unquote. So, essentially, it's a case of, if you want to trade with us, at a certain point, you have to accept some of our rules. You have to agree to some of our stuff. We'll consult you and we'll discuss things if things are going to change or if there's a dispute or any of that, right? We'll have that conversation, but ultimately, the decision does come down to our big court thingy, which is always going to happen when you're dealing with a much larger trade partner, which the EU just fucking are. It's the same as how the country of the Gambia, consisting of about 4,000 square miles, is unable to dictate trade terms to the United Kingdom. There is just a difference of scale, and that's how making these deals works. So, in summary, this is more bluster and bullshit from Russell about things he hasn't even half pretended to read or understand. He never actually reads any of the article on that, by the way, just the headline, and then an insinuation that, well, things seem bad in the UK. Here's the other thing he wants to hit Keir Starmer with today, and that's apparently giving more power to the WHO. No, sorry, WHO. Yeah, that's who I mean, not Roger Daltrey, the other people, the health people.
Let me know what you think, because it seems like it's getting even worse with this WHO treaty. Now, Starmer's just signed a treaty giving the WHO the power to recommend lockdowns. Now, how did that go during the COVID pandemic? Are we going to have a review, an inventory on the WHO's behavior and suggestions and guidance? Did the vaccines work out well? Let me know in the comments and chat. Did the lockdowns work well? Did the masks work well? Did the social distancing work well?
Yeah,
how's
all
your
of them,
small
yeah.
business in the UK? If you had a small business in the UK in 2018, 2019 that was going quite well, how's it going now? Do you know what happened? Do you know there was a massive transfer of wealth? Do you know the reason your restaurant or your landscaping business is struggling is because of your government? Governments have power. Do you understand? Do you recognize that they're using that power to divide us, to crush us? Do you recognize what Julian Assange said? The function of government is to take money from the public and place it in private hands.
It's a cute saying, but it is incredibly myopic. And again, there are plenty of strong counter-arguments in the form of more socialist countries like Sweden and Denmark, whose taxes are high and people are happy because that money doesn't get put into private hands, it gets put back into the country itself. So like, yeah, the US and the UK are more aggressively capitalist, and so it is a problem. Also, Julian Assange spent a decade holed up in embassies and later prison just trying to avoid the rape charges against him. So maybe he's not someone who makes the best life decisions, you know? Maybe we shouldn't be taking advice from that guy. Now, in terms of it being the government is why people of the UK or US are struggling, that is unfortunately very accurate, just not in the way that Russell is presenting. That massive wealth transfer he's on about benefited the likes of, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and Donald Trump, funnily enough, and likely Russell himself, as Russell is firmly among the richest 0.01% of people on the planet. The way the government is fucking people is by giving all of the money and tax breaks and whatever to the wealthy, while disproportionately cutting all welfare to the poor, placing all of the tax burden on the poor, wreaking havoc on education, healthcare, and infrastructure, and refusing to do anything to actually fucking help us. And I say us, because, well, and this does bear mentioning, I've had a couple of people in the comments sections lately yell at me for being a bourgeoisie government stooge. So let me say this again. I've lived below the poverty line for pretty much my entire life, and I still am right now. So respectfully, can it? I am an independent, working-class, disabled, trans, queer voice, so if you're gonna get offended, give me the usual reasons of personal bigotries rather than pretending I'm super wealthy just because of the way I talk. I'm sorry I sound a bit posh, I can't help it. I have always sounded like this. No one's quite sure why, to be honest, but it's just the way it is. Also, I'm Welsh. There are people take issue with that as well sometimes. As for the WHO thing, I mean, like, the power to recommend lockdowns was basically already there. They were recommending lockdowns during the pandemic. It's just now they're formalizing it, right? And there are no consequences for not complying with a WHO recommendation. Many member countries ignored the WHO during the pandemic and received no consequences from the WHO whatsoever. I mean, they mostly got higher death and injury rates due to COVID, but nothing penalizing from the WHO in any sense. So this all, again, is bullshit that Russell isn't even pretending to understand. He just wants shit to fling at Keir Starmer. Now, how does Russell cap this whole thing off? Well, it's one last concerted attack on the media before he presents us with what he thinks might be a solution to the world's problems.
Do you know in the UK you're paying for your own propaganda? That the BBC is captured, that Channel 4 is captured, that the Sunday Times, the Sun, all these organisations, they hate you, they loathe you, they detest you and they despise you. They have done for a long, long time. That the journalists that work there, they laugh at you. They think that you are disgusting with your white vans and your British flags and your black cabs and your fish and chips and your views and your opinions. They laugh at you. They're disgusted by you. They would laugh at you if you believe in the Lord. Oh my God, they don't want that. If you believe in Britain, they don't want that. They want you not believing in anything. They want you in a nihilistic morass, believing in nothing, bewildered, hopeless, drunk, drugged, and lost. There's a way out. I'm telling you there's a way out. You know the path for me has been to follow Christ Jesus. Now, in your own lives, you might not want to do that because you're British and you're embarrassed about everything. But I'm here to tell you that there's a way through this, and it's an unusual thing. I think this is what we have to do, and this is my appeal to you, people of the UK. You must open your mind to the possibility that even someone like Nigel Farage, who you might have doubts and reticence about, if he were able to form a bond, a political alliance with the likes of George Galloway and with our man Jeremy Corbyn, people that were once diametrically opposed may yet form a new party, a new movement. Maybe Reform can do it on their own now. I don't know. Maybe they couldn't get the votes. But what will end up happening probably is that Reform will do a deal with the Conservatives. The Conservatives are deep establishment. You can't trust those lot. Labour, they're going to lose in the next election one way or another. But we have to do something bold. If you want your country back, you're going to have to start doing new things. If you want things to be different, you're going to have to start behaving differently. If you want power in your communities and power as an individual, if you want to control your own borders, your own resources, it's possible. Of course it's possible. But you have to open your hearts. We have to come from a place of truth and love, and we have to do it together. But that's just what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments and chat.
Yes, an alliance between Jeremy Corbyn, famous socialist leftist, and Nigel Farage, famous racist, xenophobic, free market capitalist. Yeah, I'm sure that's going to be happening real soon. I have heard that Jeremy Corbyn might be heading up a new political party before the next general election, which is interesting. But I don't think the likes of Nigel Farage will be invited or welcomed. George Galloway, on the other hand, well, he's alt-right in everything but name, so sure, there's every probability that he's going to cozy up to old Nige if it means he'll get somewhere closer to money and power. He's been on that train for quite a while now. When it comes to Labour losing the next election, I don't know. I mean, it's been a rough year where they've pissed off literally everyone in the country one way or another, including many members of their own party, but as it stands, there are still 4 years to go until our next general election, so who knows? Like, a lot can happen in 4 years, and the US will likely have a new president before we have a new prime minister. I mean, really, in this day and age, if anyone thinks they can see that far into the future, they're fucking dreaming. Now, as for Russell's attack on the media there, supposedly the media and journalists hate and despise the working class and their white vans and black cabs and fish and chips and views and opinions. Fun fact, right? Outside of London, the average salary for a journalist is £24,000 a year, which, for those who need to know, it's not much. That's not much. Within London, it's £37,000 a year, and believe me when I say that difference will be spent on the difference in rent prices. London rent is fucking insane. In either case, the journalists themselves are working class on working class salaries. Most likely, the people driving white vans about the place are tradespeople who make more money than the journalists do. Also, many journalists are also religious, by the way, and many are Christians in the UK, which is by law a Christian country and has fucking thousands of churches. And like, it's built into our education system. You know, I went to a state school and I had prayers and shit in the morning, right? And hymns, all that stuff. You know, that's a thing here. There are lots of Christians here and a lot of them will be journalists. Russell is presenting an entirely fictitious version of what the media is and consists of, calling them all captured, saying they hate the working class and the religious. What he's actually describing are the wealthy, the oligarchs, the 1%, and possibly, sure, some media executives will be considered among that class for sure. But either way, those are the people who look down their nose at the working class. But Russell can't come for them because he is one. He is among the 0.01%. Don't tell me to be pissed off at the journalist earning £24,000 a year when you're raking in your millions from Rumble and living in your very expensive house in Destin, Florida. And especially don't have the balls to tell me I'm paying for my own propaganda in the BBC when you, water carrier for fascism worldwide, are trying to sell me on a Rumble fucking premium subscription. Politely, get fucked. Yikes. Yeah, that's enough Russell for 1 week. Good Lord. Terrible. Patrons. The Dan Bongino episode will be up this next week. I'm looking forward to getting into that. And the rest of you, I will see you next Thursday. But in the meantime, take care of yourselves and each other. Thank you very much. I love you. Bye!
All right. I'm going to finish now because I'm hungry and I want to eat something. All right, bye.